One day, I came home and heard laughter echoing through my living room. My daughter-in-law was showing my house to a potential buyer. I thought about selling it, Mom, she said casually. After all, you've already lived your life. I answered calmly, though my blood ran cold. And you? You've just started ruining yours. The silence that followed hit like a physical blow. She turned pale, her confident smile freezing on her face. I will never forget the sound of that laughter, cruel and careless, bouncing off walls I had built with my own 2 hands. It was a Tuesday afternoon when I returned from my doctor's appointment. I had barely closed the front door when I heard it, unfamiliar laughter ricocheting through the house, laughter that didn't belong in a home that did. I left my purse in the entryway. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from something I couldn't yet name. I walked slowly toward the living room, each footstep deliberate on the solid wood floor I had chosen piece by piece 35 years ago. And then I saw them. Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, stood by the main window, gesturing toward the garden with a proprietary air she had perfected over recent months. Next to her, a man in a grey suit was photographing rooms with his cell phone, a man I had never seen before in my life. The finishes are original, she was saying with a bright, practiced smile. Look at these high ceilings, this natural lighting. It's a gem of a property. I froze in the doorway. The stranger nodded, scribbling notes. And how much is she asking for it? Vanessa didn't even hesitate. $480,000. It's a fair price considering the location and lot size. $480,000. The exact value of my house, a number that appeared only on my private documents. I felt the air thicken around me. Then she saw me. Her eyes met mine for a fraction of a second, and something in her expression shifted. It wasn't shame. It was calculation. She was measuring what to say, how to escape this. "Oh, Mom," she said in a voice dripping with false sweetness. "I didn't hear you come in." I didn't answer. I simply held her gaze while the stranger extended his hand toward me. "Good afternoon, I'm Mr. Maldonado. I came to see the property." My mouth moved on its own. To see my property. Vanessa let out a nervous laugh. "It's just, well, I thought it would be a good idea to explore options." She approached me, lowering her voice as if sharing a confidence. "After all, you've already lived your life, Mom. This house is too big for one person. Don't you think it would be better to sell it so we could all enjoy that money?" The silence that followed was deafening. Mr. Maldonado coughed uncomfortably, glancing between Vanessa and me as if he'd just realized he'd walked into a minefield. But I didn't take my eyes off her, off this woman who had come to my house 2 years ago asking for shelter, who slept in my sheets, ate from my plates, and swore before my son that she would love him in wealth and in poverty. "You've already lived your life." Those 5 words circled my head like angry wasps. I took a deep breath. I felt blood rise to my cheeks, not from shame, but from something more primitive, more ancient, something that had slept within me for far too long. When I spoke, my voice emerged calm. Too calm. "And you," I paused, letting each word fall like a stone into still water, "you've just started ruining yours." Vanessa blinked. The smile froze on her face. "Excuse me." I didn't repeat myself. I simply turned to Mr. Maldonado, who was already putting away his notebook with obvious haste. "Mr. Maldonado, I'm sorry you wasted your time," I said with icy courtesy. "This house is not for sale. It never has been, and whoever told you otherwise has no right over it." The man nodded quickly, murmuring apologies as he headed for the door. Vanessa tried to stop him, but it was too late. The door closed with a sharp click, and then we were alone. Vanessa turned to me, and for the first time since I'd met her, I saw something different in her eyes. It wasn't regret. It was barely contained fury. "How dare you humiliate me like that?" she hissed. "I was just trying to help. This house is falling apart. You can't maintain it anymore. And Ryan and you." I interrupted. You live here because of my generosity. You eat my food. You sleep under my roof. And now I find you trying to sell what doesn't belong to you." She turned pale. Completely pale. "I wasn't, I just wanted." "What did you want, Vanessa?" My voice remained calm, but every word emerged sharp as a scalpel. "To take my house from me while I'm still breathing? To leave me with nothing because you've decided I'm not worth it anymore?" She didn't answer. Her lips trembled. I walked toward her, and although I'm 8 inches shorter, at that moment I felt like I towered over her. "This conversation isn't over," I whispered. "But I'm going to give you some advice. Pray that your husband doesn't find out about this before I decide what to do with you." I turned and climbed the stairs to my bedroom. My legs barely supported me, but I couldn't let her see it. I couldn't let her know that inside, I was falling to pieces. I locked the door. I sat on the edge of my bed, the same bed where I'd slept with my husband for 30 years, where I'd cared for him in his final days, where I'd cried his death until I ran out of tears. And only then, in the silence of my own room, did I let the trembling in my hands spread throughout my body. "You've already lived your life. How dare she? How dare she look at me and decide that my time was over, that I no longer deserved the very roof I'd built with my own hands?" I clenched my fists in my lap, because that was the problem. Vanessa didn't know who I was. She didn't know that this house was not just walls and windows. It was my work, my design, my sacrifice. And worse, she didn't know how far I was capable of going to protect it. But she was about to find out. Downstairs, I heard hurried footsteps. A door opening. Ryan's voice asking what had happened. Vanessa's shrill voice inventing her version of events. I got up and walked to the window. From there, I could see the garden I'd planted with my own hands, the lemon tree I'd planted when Ryan was born, the iron bench where my husband and I had shared coffee every morning. This wasn't just my house. It was my entire life. And no one, absolutely no one, was going to take it from me. Vanessa had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She just didn't know it yet. That night, I didn't go down for dinner. I heard soft knocks on my door, Ryan's voice asking if I was okay, saying we needed to talk. But I didn't answer, because if I opened that door, if I saw his face, I might say things I could never take back. Instead, I sat in the armchair by the window, watching garden shadows as night swallowed the colors of day. And there, in that silence, I did something I hadn't done in years. I remembered. I remembered the woman I used to be. My name is Alisa Miller. I am 68 years old, but there was a time when 68 seemed like a distant eternity. There was a time when I was unstoppable. I closed my eyes and saw myself at 33, with my black hair pulled back in a ponytail, my hands stained with ink and plaster, bent over a drafting table in a tiny office that barely had windows. It was 1990. I had just graduated as an architect in a world that still looked strangely at women with hard hats and blueprints under their arms. My husband, David, worked as an accountant at a medium-sized firm. Ryan was barely 3 years old, running barefoot through our rented house, a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens where the upstairs neighbors made so much noise it sounded like they were moving furniture at midnight. "Alisa," David would tell me while we drank instant coffee in the early morning, "one day we're going to have our own house. One that you design. One that's just ours." I would smile and nod, but inside I thought, not one day. Soon. Because I was not one to wait. I opened my eyes. Night had completely fallen. City lights flickered in the distance like fallen stars. I got up from the armchair. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I walked to my closet and took out an old showbox I kept on the highest shelf. Inside were the original plans for this house, yellowed, folded, stained with coffee and tears and construction dust. I unfolded them on the bed. I ran my fingers over the lines I had drawn decades ago, every measurement, every calculation, every dream made real. This house was worth $480,000 according to the current market. But to me, it was priceless. And if Vanessa thought she could snatch it from me with fake smiles and unknown buyers, she was very mistaken. Because I was Alisa Miller, the woman who built her own castle. And castles do not surrender without a battle. I folded the plans carefully, put them back in their box, and then I did something I hadn't done since David's funeral. I knelt by the bed and prayed. I didn't pray for patience. I didn't pray for forgiveness. I prayed for strength. Because I was going to need it. The next morning, I went down to breakfast as if nothing had happened. Vanessa was in the kitchen making coffee. When she saw me enter, she visibly tensed. Her hands froze over the coffee maker. "Good morning," I said in a neutral, almost friendly voice. She blinked, confused. "Good morning, Mom." I said nothing more. I simply took out my favorite mug, the blue ceramic one David gave me on our 10th anniversary, and waited my turn for coffee. The silence in the kitchen was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Ryan came in minutes later with the face of a man who'd slept badly and woken worse. My son, my only son, 43 years old, a civil engineer, his hair already thinning at the crown and wrinkles around his eyes that made him look older than he was. He looked at me as if expecting an explosion, but I just smiled. "Did you sleep well, son?" His bewilderment was obvious. Yes, Mom. And you?" "Like always." I took a sip of my coffee. "I'm going out for a few hours. I have some things to take care of." Vanessa and Ryan exchanged quick glances. She seemed relieved. He seemed cautious. I didn't give them time to ask anything else. I took my keys, my purse, and left the house without looking back. But I didn't go to take care of things. I went to remember. I drove to a small cafe downtown where I used to go with David when we needed to escape the noise of the world. I sat at a table by the window, ordered an Americano, and let my mind travel back. 2 years. It had only been 2 years since Ryan arrived with Vanessa. It was an October afternoon. I was pruning the roses in the garden when I heard the doorbell. I opened the door, and there was my son with a suitcase in each hand and an unknown woman by his side. "Mom," he said with that nervous smile he used when he knew he was about to ask me for something big. "This is Vanessa, my girlfriend." Girlfriend. Not even fiancé. Just girlfriend. Vanessa was 32 then. Ryan, 41. 9 years difference. Long black hair, perfectly straight. Impeccable blood-red nails. Tight clothes that screamed brand names without actually being them. And that smile, God, that smile looked like it had been practiced in front of a mirror. "A pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Miller," she said in a soft, almost childish voice. "Ryan has told me so much about you." I shook her hand. "Cold. Too cold for a warm day. The pleasure is mine." I looked at my son. "Are you coming in or just visiting?" Ryan cleared his throat. "Actually, Mom, we need a favor." "Of course you do." It turned out that Ryan had lost his job 3 months ago. A restructuring at the company, they said. Last one in, first one out. And Vanessa, as he told me, worked in sales but was between jobs. Between jobs. What an elegant way to say unemployed. "We need to stay here for a while," Ryan said without looking me in the eyes. "Just until I find something new. A couple of months, maximum. A couple of months." I should have said no. I should have asked why they didn't seek help from her family. I should have set clear rules, boundaries, specific dates. But I looked at my son, this man I had raised, and I saw something in his eyes that scared me. Desperation. "All right," I said. "You can stay." Vanessa smiled, a victorious smile she tried to disguise as gratitude. "Thank you, Mom. You don't know how much this means to us." Mom. She was already calling me Mom without even being married. The first few days were tolerable. Vanessa was friendly, helpful. She helped with cleaning. She made breakfast. She asked if I needed anything from the supermarket. Ryan spent his mornings sending out resumes and doing video interviews. In the afternoons, he would go out with Vanessa to explore the neighborhood, or they would lock themselves in their room. I tried to give them space. After all, they were a couple. They needed privacy. But then the changes began. Small at first. Almost imperceptible. Vanessa started reorganizing the kitchen. "It's just more practical this way, Mom," she'd say as she moved my pots from their spots. She changed the curtains in the living room without asking me. "The others were already very old," she justified. She brought in a new sofa she claimed she'd bought on sale and relegated my favorite armchair to the basement. "This one is more modern," she assured me. Every time I protested, Ryan intervened. "Mom, it's not a big deal. She's just trying to help." Help? By erasing my presence from my own house? But I kept quiet because I didn't want to be that mother-in-law, the one who complains, the one who interferes, the one who makes drama over everything. So I swallowed my discomfort and smiled. The couple of months turned into 6, then a year and a half. Ryan got sporadic freelance jobs, but nothing stable. Vanessa kept looking but never found anything that convinced her. And meanwhile, my house stopped being mine. Vanessa invited friends over without telling me. They celebrated birthdays of people I didn't know in my living room. They used my good china, the set I only brought out for Christmas. They left dirty dishes in the sink for me to wash. When I asked them to contribute to expenses, Ryan would look at me with sad puppy eyes. "Mom, you know we're tight. As soon as things get better." But things never got better. And every day, Vanessa behaved less like a guest and more like the owner. She started calling my house our house, referring to my garden as our garden, my living room as our living room. When her friends asked, she'd say, "Yes, we live here. It's a family home." As if I were just a tenant in my own property. Ryan seemed blind. Or worse, he seemed to not want to see. One night, I confronted him. It was 6 months ago, after Vanessa redecorated my dining room without even consulting me. "Son," I said when we were alone, "we need to talk." He sighed as if he already knew what was coming. As if he was tired of hearing it. "Mom, please don't start." "Start what?" "Defending what's mine? Asking for a minimum of respect." "Vanessa respects you," he said, but his voice sounded hollow, as if repeating something he'd rehearsed. "She just wants the house to look good, to be a pleasant place for everyone." It was pleasant before she arrived. Ryan closed his eyes. "Mom, don't do this. Please." "Do what?" "Remind you that this house is mine? That you're here because of my generosity." "I know it's your house," he finally exploded. "You think I don't know? You think she doesn't remind me every single day how grateful I should be?" I froze. "Vanessa doesn't remind me of anything," he continued, his voice trembling. "She just acts as if she has a right to be here. And I let her because I gave it to her." He ran his hands over his face. "Mom, I love her. And I need you to make an effort to get along with her." "I love her." Those 3 words explained everything. My son was so in love, so blinded, that he couldn't see what I saw with crystal clarity. Vanessa didn't love this house. She didn't love him either. She loved the security, the comfort, the free roof. But I couldn't tell him that. Because when you tell a man that the woman he loves is just using him, he doesn't listen to you. He just hates you. So I swallowed the words. I nodded. And I let him believe he had won. But that night, lying in my bed, I knew something had broken between my son and me. Something we might never be able to repair. And 3 months later, there I was, sitting in a cafe downtown, drinking a cold Americano, remembering how I had gotten to this point. How I had allowed a stranger to enter my life and dismantle it piece by piece. How I had lost my son without even realizing the exact moment it happened. I paid the bill. I left the cafe. And as I walked to my car, I made a decision. I wasn't going to get my son back by arguing with him. I was going to get him back by showing him the truth. And for that, I needed evidence. Ants don't destroy a house in one day. They do it slowly, patiently, one crumb at a time, one piece of wood after another, until one day you realize the foundations are hollow and it's too late. That's how Vanessa took my life from me. Not with one blow. With 1,000 small stings that seemed insignificant at first. I returned home that afternoon, determined to observe, to document, to see with new eyes what I had been ignoring for months. And what I saw froze my blood. I entered through the front door, and the smell hit me first. It wasn't the usual scent, that mix of old wood and garden flowers that I loved so much. It was perfume, a sweet, heavy perfume that saturated the air like toxic fog. Vanessa had bought one of those electric diffusers and placed it in the entryway. French vanilla, the label said. I hated vanilla. I walked to the kitchen. There she was, cooking something on the stove. When she saw me enter, her smile was instant. Too instant. Mom, good you're here. I made chicken in green salsa for lunch. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten anything since the morning coffee. That's nice, I said, approaching the stove. But then I saw the plates on the counter. 2 plates. Only 2, served generously with fluffy white rice, fresh salad, hot tortillas in a basket. And for me? I asked in a casual voice. Vanessa didn't even seem uncomfortable. Oh, I didn't know what time you'd be back, Mom. But there's more in the pot. You can serve yourself. You can serve yourself. As if I were a guest arriving late to dinner. I went to the stove. The pot was almost empty. Only one small piece of chicken remained, swimming in thin sauce. No rice. No salad. The leftovers. She was giving me the leftovers in my own house. I didn't say anything. I served what was left on a plate, took a hard tortilla from the package on top of the refrigerator, not from the basket with the hot ones, and sat at the breakfast nook, not in the dining room, because Vanessa and Ryan were already settled there, eating, laughing, talking about a series they were watching together. I ate alone in silence, looking out the window at the garden I had planted. The chicken was cold. That night, I decided to stay awake. I waited until I heard bedroom doors close, until hallway lights went out, until the house was plunged into that deep midnight silence. Then I went downstairs, barefoot, like a thief in my own home, and started looking. First, the living room. The furniture Vanessa had brought in wasn't on sale as she'd said. I checked the tag still stuck to the bottom. Luxury department store. Each piece cost over $4,000. With what money had she bought them if she was supposedly unemployed? I opened the drawers of the new cabinet. Invoices. Piles of invoices in the name of Vanessa Quiroga. Credit cards, 4 different ones, all with balances in the red. I took pictures with my cell phone. Every invoice, every bank statement I found hidden between magazines and papers. Vanessa owed $32,000 on one card, $24,000 on another, $18,000 on the third, and $15,000 on the last one. $89,000 in debt. And I'd thought she had no money. I kept looking. In the study that used to be David's, now converted into Vanessa's office, I found something else. Printed emails. Conversations with a lawyer named Anderson, dated 2 months ago. Dear Ms. Quiroga, in response to your inquiry about obtaining power of attorney due to the owner's incapacity, I inform you that. My breath caught. Owner's incapacity. Me. She was researching how to declare me incompetent, how to take away my legal control over my own property. My hands shook so much I almost dropped the papers. I photographed them all. Every line, every incriminating paragraph. There was more. A home appraisal done 3 weeks ago by a company I had not hired. $480,000, it said, with a handwritten note in the margin. Buyer interested. $30,000 deposit. $30,000 deposit. She had already sold my house, or at least she'd already received money on account for a sale I had not authorized. I went back upstairs on trembling legs. I locked myself in my room. I connected my cell phone to the old laptop I had stored away and transferred all the photos. The evidence was there, clear, irrefutable. But a part of me still couldn't believe it. Still wanted to think that maybe I had misunderstood, that maybe Vanessa had an explanation. How naive I was. The following days were a silent nightmare. I started noticing things I had ignored before, things I had convinced myself weren't a big deal. Like the way Vanessa organized meetings at my house without telling me. Her friends would arrive in the afternoons. They would settle in the living room as if it were theirs. They drank my wine. They used my bathroom. They left lipstick stains on my crystal glasses. I protested once. Vanessa, I would have liked you to tell me you were having visitors. She smiled with that fake sweetness I knew so well. Oh, Mom, I thought you wouldn't mind. After all, you're in your room. We're not even bothering you. In my room. As if I were an old woman confined to a nursing home. Or like the day I came home from grocery shopping and found my bedroom door locked from the outside. Why is my room locked? I asked with the grocery bag still in my hands. Vanessa came out of the kitchen drying her hands. Oh, I was cleaning and didn't want dust from the hallway to get in. It's open now. A lie. When I went in, everything was exactly as I had left it. She hadn't cleaned anything. She had been looking for something. Documents, probably. Deeds. I started keeping everything under lock and key. My passport, my important papers, the house deeds that I used to keep in the study. And then the worst part began, the dinners. Vanessa started cooking elaborate meals for herself and Ryan. Steak. Fresh pasta. Desserts. But for me, there was always an excuse. Oh, Mom, I thought you already ate. I made just a little because Ryan and I are on a diet. There's some of lunch left in the fridge. You can heat it up. Always leftovers. Always cold. Always alone. One night, Ryan and Vanessa had baked salmon with roasted potatoes and caprese salad. I ate a ham sandwich I made myself, sitting at the breakfast nook while they laughed and poured wine in the dining room. My dining room. My wine. My house. And me, eating alone like a beggar. The worst part? Ryan didn't even notice. Or he didn't want to notice. When her visitors came, Vanessa had a perfect technique. The house is beautiful, her friends would say. Thank you, she would reply as if she'd built it with her own hands. We've made a lot of improvements since we arrived. We. As if they were the owners. And if I came downstairs while they had visitors, Vanessa would look at me with a tense smile. Mom, do you need something? We're in the middle of a meeting. As if I were interrupting. As if I had no right to be in my own living room. One afternoon, one of her friends asked me directly, "And you are Ryan's mother?" Before I could answer, Vanessa intervened with a syrupy voice. Yes, she lives here with us. She's getting on in years and needs company, right, Mom? Lives here with us. As if they were the owners. As if I were the freeloader. I smiled. I nodded. And I went up to my room with my heart in pieces. That night, lying in my bed, looking at the ceiling I had designed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't sadness. It was rage. A deep, ancient rage born from somewhere dark in my chest and spreading like fire through my veins. How had I allowed this? How had I let this woman enter my life and tear it apart piece by piece? How had I allowed her to treat me like trash in my own home? But the rage wasn't just against Vanessa. It was against myself, for being a coward. For keeping quiet. For smiling when I should have screamed. For being the good mother-in-law when I should have been the owner of my own life. I got out of bed. I walked to the mirror. The woman looking back at me was 68 years old. Wrinkles around her eyes, grey hair peeking through the dye, age spots on her hands. But she also had something else. She had the look of someone who had built empires, who had raised houses with her own hands, who had survived losses that would have destroyed others. Enough, I told my reflection. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt that the woman in the mirror believed me. There are moments in life when everything changes in a second. A medical diagnosis. A call at midnight. A door that opens and reveals something you shouldn't see. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday morning, 3 days after finding Vanessa's debts. Ryan had left early for a job interview. Vanessa was still sleeping, or so I thought. I went down to the kitchen to make coffee when I saw the envelope. It was on the dining room table, a large manila envelope with the logo of a notary's office printed in the corner. Notary Public Number 186, Mr. Harold Cardy. The envelope was open. I should have left it there. I should have respected her privacy. I should have. But it was no longer time for should-haves. I took out the documents, and what I read took my breath away. It was a power of attorney form, written in the name of Vanessa Quiroga, granting her broad and general powers to administer, sell, mortgage, and perform any act of ownership over the property located at 47 Cedar Lane. My house. My address. But the most terrifying part wasn't that. It was a signature at the bottom of the document, a shaky, irregular signature that was supposedly mine. Only I had never signed that paper. My hands shook so much I almost dropped the pages. There were more documents. A letter from the notary requesting the